For more, I'm joined by Congressman Adam Schiff, a Democrat from California. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
175,000 jobs added, which reflects the slow but steady climb out of the recession. And yet we lost 45,000 government jobs in 3 months. Can you imagine how much better things might be if Speaker Boehner allowed himself a conference on a budget and thereby we could do away with the sequester?
They would be a lot better. It really is criminal that we have this policy in place that is dampening our economic recovery. Even at the modest job growth that we've seen, it's going to take another 5 years to get back to where we were before the recession. If we could cut that in time, cut that by half or even more, and we don't because we want to go through and double down on this failed sequestration strategy, that's just terrible. We ought to be investing in things that would create jobs. We saw, Martin, just last week another tragic bridge collapse. One of just hundreds of bridges around the country that are equal state of decrepitude and could collapse. Why not put those people to work now, rebuilding those bridges and infrastructure when we need the jobs instead of laying people off, furloughing? Probably hundreds of thousands of people are going to be furloughed in the coming weeks and months. All of this then when we should be growing jobs, not shrinking them.
Well, Speaker Boehner released a scintillating statement on the jobs report earlier today where he said today's modest job growth is a positive. So, to be perfectly honest, I can't even be bothered to read it. It's the same old garbage that we see every single time this happens. This is the kind of gibberish that the Speaker spouts from his tanning bed at the end of each month, but he's done absolutely nothing to strengthen the economy. The only thing he appears to be interested in the moment is who's going to jail at the IRS.
Well, unfortunately, as one of my former colleagues puts it, he's not really running the Republican conference. He's running one step ahead of the mob. And he has to deal with this unruly part of his conference that is happy to default on our debt, that is happy with the sequester, that really doesn't care anything about trying to govern in a positive way, merely wants to tear down. And unfortunately, tearing exactly what they're doing. We're seeing, the impact on our employment and our economy, the dampening impact of the sequester, but what many Americans are not seeing are the invisible impacts as people in the safety net are really at jeopardy because we might cure the more visible problems like air traffic controllers, but people trying to get their kids into Head Start are not going to get their kids in Head Start, and people trying to find housing they can't afford it are not going to find housing. And those are some of the most dire impacts of the sequester.
Yeah, and you mustn't forget those 4 million elderly people who will be very soon losing their Meals on Wheels provision. The President was in California nearby earlier today, as you know, where he spoke about the Affordable Care Act. Take a listen.
You can listen to a bunch of political talk out there, negative ads and fear-mongering geared towards the next election. Or alternatively, you can actually look what's happening in states like California right now.
Meanwhile, a new poll finds that 49% of people feel the Affordable Care Act is a bad idea. Is it your opinion, sir, that this is based on the real numbers, or is it simply a failure on the part of the administration in explaining to the American people exactly how beneficial the Affordable Care Act can be?
Well, I think the responsibility is shared. It's not only the administration, but those of us in Congress, I think, haven't done a very good job in getting the word out about how the Affordable Care Act is going to operate, and in particular, one of the best features, which are the health insurance exchanges that allow individuals and small employers to basically get the bulk purchasing power of millions of others to buy plans at affordable rates. And in fact, what we're seeing in California is the overwhelming majority of plans participating in health insurance exchanges, and the premiums that are being projected are very reasonable. So the doomsayers and the naysayers who are saying that rates were going to skyrocket, that is not proving to be the case in California. We're not only going to have plans that have better coverage and affordable better coverage, but also people with pre-existing conditions for the first time may actually be able to get insurance again.
Yeah, that's a real achievement. Shifting gears again, sir, are you at all confident that we'll see an immigration bill anytime soon, or has that also been lost to Republican belligerents? Because we're hearing that Marco Rubio is now suggesting a level of ambivalence about whether that proposal by the Gang of Eight will go through the Senate, and if it gets to the House, who knows what will happen.
Well, I'm still optimistic that we'll get a bill out of the Senate, and I hope that the Democrats in the Senate can hold the line and make sure that the path to citizenship is a real path and not just a fictional one. When it gets to the House, that's when the rough road is going to take place. We're going to get to the rough road. And we saw that just this week, Martin, when the Republicans offered an amendment to basically try to deport the Dreamers, to roll back any funding for the President's program of deferring action on the Dreamers. The DREAM Act is frankly, one of the easiest pieces of immigration reform, one of the most popular pieces. And if even that gets voted down by the House GOP, it does put the passage of comprehensive reform in question. I think probably, Martin, the only way this gets passed is if the Senate bill gets taken up without amendment in the House ultimately, and it passes in violation of the Hastert rule with a majority of Democratic support.
As it always does when Speaker Boehner's in charge or not in charge. Congressman Adam Schiff, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Coming up, caution. Vladimir